Okay. So happy that you all took time out of your evening and join us. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could you all see the flag over? All right. As always, our item 3.03, we're going to start with some comments from our fearless leaders. So Dr. Seifert, if you share some thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Towers. Welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. We are glad you are with us and joining us either in person or on YouTube tonight. We are in June, and that means we've made it through the 2021 school year. It's truly amazing. Yes, I like to say you can clap for that. It's truly amazing that what our staff and students have accomplished together through a year truly for the record books. I'm deeply proud of the fact that we have provided in-person and virtual learning the entire year. Congratulations to our Board of Education, to our staff, and to our families and our students. Job well done. Great job, SCSD. We recently celebrated our graduating class of 2021. Both SCHS and SC West had wonderful outdoor ceremonies. Thank you to all of our staff that worked tirelessly in making sure that June 5th was a great celebration for all who attended. And just a quick special shout out to our own board member, Mrs. Leslie Knight. I think you had a special moment. She was able to give her son Eli his diploma, which is pretty neat. So congratulations to, and it's a fantastic group of young people who have really prevailed through a lot. And we're excited about their next steps in their life's journey. The spring sports season came to a close with 2 great runs, and I'm telling you, if you guys know me, I love watching our kids in plays and in art shows, their artwork, and in sports. I just love it. And St. Charles West baseball team went to the quarterfinal round. It was a great run, and man, those Lady Pirates soccer team went all the way to the championship game and lost 2-0 in the championship game and took 2nd place in state. So let's give both those teams a round of applause. Very, very proud of both those teams. We have just finished our first week of summer school and extended school year. It's just great to have, I say, students back, our student staff back in the buildings. It's only just been a week, but they're back in the buildings, and it's awesome to have them back. And we are truly committed to working on narrowing and mending any learning loss that was caused by the pandemic. Later on in the meeting, we will discuss plans to continue addressing learning loss through our ESSER funds. Our latest podcast episode for the 2021 school year was sent out during the last week of school. It featured information regarding the diversity, equity, and inclusion work we started to embark on in the SCSD this year, and we look forward to some meaningful DEI PD work this summer. COVID protocol update. As stated in my letter sent to families and staff at the end of the school year, we will be collaborating with the St. Charles County Department of Health, reviewing COVID data and discussing things as a district over the summer months to make sure we're making the safest decisions for all as we continue our in-person learning in August. We hope things continue to progress in a positive direction and that we will be able to lift the mask mandate. But time and conditions will tell. However, accordingly to the SCCDPH directives, we will continue to be masked up for summer school at this point. As we always do, we will keep everyone updated and communicated at the appropriate time. I will also mention re-entry plans briefly tonight in our presentation of our ESSER funding later in the meeting. I want to thank everybody for their continued dedication and trust as we move forward together. And lastly, I want to personally wish our staff and all of our families a very safe and restful summer. May we all find time to recharge, rejuvenate as we look forward to making 21-22 the best year yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Lots of good things happened this year despite obstacles we had to overcome. We're ready for item 3.04. And Ellen, do we have any board communications?
Kelly does such a good job forwarding information from MSBA that I have nothing to add.
We are getting a lot of good information. Thanks. Thanks. Item 3.05, public recognition.
As many of you know, The open session of our board meeting is televised. The next portion of our open meeting will consist of public recognition. Through participation in the public recognition portion of our meeting, all parties give consent to the televised broadcast of information and images, as well as other district-related media. If you prefer not to participate, you have that option. And I thank my second grade teacher for teaching me how to read. So,
Should be so proud.
thank you.
This evening, we are recognizing the American Family Insurance Program and their work with our foundation. So I'm going to ask the president of our foundation, Tracy Fon, if you'll come to the mic. And we do have some things up here for you to note, but I think Tracy's probably going to cover most of it. Well, they'll need it to get it into the streaming thing.
Well, I'd like to thank the board for having us here. It gives us, as the foundation, an opportunity to publicly thank American Family. But before I do that, I would like to introduce the board members that are here. So if they would stand, Steve Jacob, Suzanne Engel, and Becky Hallmeyer, and Donna Towers is our representative from the board. We would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank American Family and their American Family Adopt a School and their Dreams Foundation for their generous support to our district. From 2018 to 2021, we have received $100,000, and this money was used towards grants. We offered 24 grants in these 3 years, and some of the examples of the grants, I'm not going to list them all, but some of them were using SNAP circuits to promote listening and writing skills, putting the Make and Maker Space, garden worm composting, a STEM day, Girls Night Out Engineering Symposium for 3rd and 4th grade girls, virtual fitness integrating technology in physical education, Kindergarten Goes Wild in augmented reality, podcasting, a Dash and Dig robotics, problem-solving coding, and an after-school club that taught the benefits and the uses of drones, as well as the kids got to actually work with drones themselves. We were also able to contribute to the district professional development within the district, and we provided masks and hand sanitizers to every staff member at the beginning of the 2020 school year. With the help of American Family, we were able to give money to each school in the district to use at their discretion to boost morale while dealing with the stress of COVID in the classroom. And just recently, American Family donated pens and pencils and notepads to the district. This partnership has had a tremendous impact on our students and our teachers and the education from the youngest of the early childhood children to the high school students. We are forever grateful to Scott McConnell and now Sam Rosenblum and American Family for their continuous support of our district. And I would just like to reiterate that we really enjoy the partnership and hope that it continues on.
We have because they've done a lot for the foundation, and through the foundation, American Family Insurance, the district and the board wants to also recognize all of their support. So we have this document, Certificate of Appreciation from the Board of Education, the School District of the City of St. Charles, for American Family Insurance Grant Program in recognition of your support and grant donations made on behalf of our district, staff, and students, and a letter from the district itself, a thank you letter that we're going to be mailing to them. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And can I add thank you all for all your great work too. You guys are just an awesome group of people. Thank you so much for your support.
Sitting in on that foundation when they meet, and as much as they do, our district would not function as successfully as it does without these volunteers. You're not getting paid, are you? Okay.
It's just and I know we need to move on, but it's just a perfect example of just the great tradition that we have in our school district with former teachers and educators that come back and support us, and we're just one big family supporting each other. And the neat thing is, when you talk about these activities and things and the family insurance giving us all this money, we personally see these activities. We go out and see, we get invited to come see, look at what the kids are doing, and the active learning that they're having and the things that they'll be able to experiencing because of this money, because of your efforts, is just, it's priceless. So thank you so much for all that you guys do to support us.
Thank you, Foundation.
Yep.
Okay, audience comments, and we do have some, so we need to read our,
The public participation at board meetings has the following remarks. All regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be a good listener and be responsive to the community, persons desiring to address the board may do so during the time so allotted on the agenda and according to established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited to by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda or on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify him or herself, limit comments to a few minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and/or length of comments. At the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to and research all audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators.
okay, thank you. The first card is Brendan Kern. If you'd like to come to the mic. Of course, we know Brendan, but.
Good evening. I'm Brendan Kearns, President of the St. Charles Education Association. I'd like to begin by recognizing our SCEA scholarship winners. Any member with children who attend St. Charles West or St. Charles High are eligible for this scholarship. This year, we awarded $500 scholarships to the following students: Connor Asbell, son of early childhood teacher Karen Asbell; Zach Southard, son of Success Campus teacher Angie Southard; Mia Jones, daughter of Jefferson teacher Kim Boyd; and Olivia Huffmeyer, daughter of Coverdale teacher Catherine Huffmeyer. With our school year concluded, SCEA is hoping all our staff is getting some time to relax and reflect on the past year. Staff and families in our district were challenged like they never have been before, and while navigating the school year was bumpy at times, we're proud of the hard work everybody put in to make sure our students had the best learning environment possible. While this is the end of only my first year as president, I feel I've gained the wisdom and knowledge of several years. I'm sure our staff and Board of Education members have much the same feeling. I hope to build on my learning experiences and continue our work to help our district attract and maintain high-quality staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Brendan. We have our second audience participation card is for Gail. Is that Borno? Thank you. Gail, if you'd like to come to the mic.
Good evening. My name is Gail Borho. I'm a graduate of the district, and I also have a son, a special needs son who attends the district. I'm here just to bring up some concerns that I have about the current DEI professional development. As I've watched this ideology bring across the nation in different school districts, there have been concerns that have been risen about the implementation of a diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum. Mainly with equity, we're looking at, instead of equality, which is an equal opportunity for all students to grow and learn, we're looking at equity, which is an equal end result. My concern over the equity portion is that our high achieving students and our will lose those opportunities, those advanced placement, the college credit, the National Honor Society, in an effort to reach an equity where everyone has the same outcome. You know, I don't expect my son, who's a special needs and has been, you know, this district I always brag about. Everyone has been unbelievably supportive, not only of my child, but every child that walks through these doors. And I'm concerned that students will be left out or will lose opportunities in trying to reach a goal that is kind of in at the time. The questions that I would have is, what is the desired end goal of that the professional development? And if there was ever an instance where a student was denied an opportunity, an education, a scholarship in the district that has, you know, caused this need to grow in the district that would need to be addressed, it's just a concern of mine and other students. And I know that the district has always had a common sense approach to teaching our students, getting them prepared to go into the world. And I just hope that continues with students or with the administration and the teachers in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail, for sharing your thoughts. We're ready for item 3.07 to amend or adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move we adopt the agenda.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
So, agenda for efficiency, the school board utilizes a consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature or are among the many decisions that the board has already determined are in the domain of the administration. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from May 10th?
May I interject? Would you like to give some people the opportunity to leave if they don't want to?
Why, yeah, that part, you know. Yeah, we're in this part, and while we appreciate that you took time from a beautiful summer evening to come here, you may want to have other things that you'd like to do, so this might be your opportunity. Take advantage of it while you can.
Thank you all, good to see you.
Thank you all.
I'm sorry to interject, but
I need that.
they were fidgeting.
Oh,
So consent agenda.
yeah. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll second.
Aye. Okay, thank you. I didn't say those opposed, I'm sorry. Those opposed? Okay. Item 6.01, under old business, bus equipment lease purchase agreement. Are you speaking to that one? No.
Well, Dr. Brazil brought this up at our last meeting and kind of gave you, I think, prepped you, because he's obviously not with us tonight. He's on vacation, but this is basically you're officially approving what he talked about last time in terms of the bus equipment lease. So,
We
Can
did
I ask a
discuss that.
quick question? How much do those catalytic converters cost?
that's a good
Oh,
question.
wow.
I do not have that answer. There you go. Thank you.
Wow.
And 10 of those, right?
I think I said, did I say 10? I thought maybe I said 12. But we don't have official, thank you for saying the individual costs. I don't have a total of what that looks like yet. Going through our insurance.
Do we have cameras there at
Yes,
the bus lot?
yes.
So did we pick anything up on that?
I have not, I did not hear specifically that we picked up things, but I do know that the good news is we had a driver come early in the morning to a test run or do something and was able to catch that, not the people attacked, but it could have been another
Yeah.
couple of days. probably some more activity, so.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve this equipment lease? Oh, I was hoping you were going to read that whole long.
Did you say to enter into an equipment lease purchase agreement? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't hear.
Do I have a second?
Second, Malone.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, item 7.01, our general obligation bond resolutions, and Charles did talk to us about that too. Do you have anything you want to add, or?
You did. Jason Terry's with us tonight. Is there anything you would like to add to the board? I know we did some signatures earlier on. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
Well, I can certainly speak about the bond resolution, but my guess is you'd rather hear from Lorenzo to tell you about the bond sale today. The bond attorneys don't usually have anything great to say, but the bond underwriters get all the accolades. So I'll let Lorenzo. Sure. I'll let Lorenzo speak, and if there are any questions on the bond resolution, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
To that point, we do want to thank Jason and Lorenzo. They've been working with us for quite a while, and we appreciate your business partnership and working with us. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm sure Lorenzo would echo that. We appreciate the opportunity to work with the district.
Lorenzo?
Floor is yours, sir. Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lorenzo Boyd with Stifel, and I must say that I'm zoomed out, so I'm glad to be back in front of you guys. I had a year worth of Zoom, and I think everyone missed my face, so that's a joke. But anyway, today was a good day. I want to thank the St. Charles School District for actually giving us the opportunity again to work with you guys, and congratulate you on the passage of your bond financing, your bond issue back in April. And today we kind of went through that process of actually selling the bonds, which will close on July 1st, and that's when Stifel will wire the funds to the school district so that you can start all your projects. Today was actually Lavinia's first time doing a bond transaction in terms of going through their process. Charles took off on purpose, I think, just so he can give Lavinia the opportunity to get her feet wet, but I think it turned out well for her. So we sold $50 million of bonds today. And I believe she probably gave you a copy of the financing summary, perhaps. But we sold $50 million of bonds, and guess what? We received $187 million of orders. So that means there was a lot of demand for the St. Charles School District bonds. So we were almost 4 times oversubscribed. We actually priced, Stifel did more than 10 transactions, not myself, but across the country. And most of the transactions were about 1 to 1.5 times oversubscribed. Yours was almost 4 times oversubscribed. And I think it was actually being in the direct deposit program, being AA+, and then also your great underlying credit rating of AA-, which is actually in the top 25% of all school districts that are rated in the state of Missouri. So we were able to lower interest rates from about 2 to 8 basis points. So you're going to receive on July 1st a little over $54.5 million in proceeds that you'll be able to use, and you borrowed that money over a 20-year period for actually 2.03%. So that's cheaper than you can. That's cheaper than you can get a home mortgage these days. 2.03%. So, and I think I was just kind of reading about it, but I think this is the lowest interest rates have been since the 1952-53, which is I'm at a school which was the Truman administration, I believe, going into the Eisenhower administration. So this is the lowest interest rate, so it was a great time to enter the market. None of us were here at that time, but it was a great time to enter the market today, and I want to congratulate you on a job well done and a good pricing, and here to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
It was a busy day.
Busy.
Lavinia's had a busy day.
Just
You love your new role, right?
Well, it was definitely more titillating than Charles's review.
I think you both speak more than usual.
Exactly.
I bring the experts up here.
yeah.
Yeah, Charles never gives us the floor. No, I'm just kidding.
Jason's like, what? Yeah, Jason talked to me.
So if there are not any questions, then we're just here to pass the bond resolution, and then we'll be set to close in 2 weeks, and that's when it'll be happy spending.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion?
You certainly can.
Thank you. Of course, I'm going to read the whole thing.
I knew you would.
I move to approve a resolution authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of $50 million principal amount of general obligation bonds, Missouri Direct Deposit Program, Series 2021 of the School District of the City of St. Charles, Missouri, prescribing the form and details of said bonds, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said bonds as they become due, and authorizing certain other documents and actions in connection therewith as presented. Was that interesting or what?
That was, and your second grade teacher would be so
Yeah, I
proud.
appreciate my second grade teacher.
Do I have a second?
Yes, you did.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay, item 7.02, Lewis and Clark Newfoundland subdivision infrastructure bid.
So I'm going to, come on up, Andrew, because I want you to help me have this conversation. So, Board of Education, you'll see in here a quick outline, and I'll have Andrew kind of speak to it, but we're getting ready to, we've talked about Newfoundland subdivision over by Knoll. That's will be where our new houses will be. And we're closing out, the good news is we're closing out our existing subdivision, Trails
Yes.
of
Lewis and Clark.
Lewis and Clark, and we're excited about getting that house on the market here very soon. So we're excited, or is it on the market already?
No, it'll be on the market, I think Father's Day weekend.
So we're really excited about that, but now we're obviously needing to move forward and looking at what next year looks like. And so I wanted Dr. Stewart, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. I wanted Dr. Stewart to come and speak a little bit to you of, because we're going to ask you to approve an infrastructure bid tonight. It's a pretty heavy cost here, but we want to talk about why and what that looks like in terms of building that infrastructure so we can get those houses going. Okay, do you want to speak to that at all?
Sure.
Good.
Hi, everybody.
Aye.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to see you. So you know, we've Lewis and Clark have been building homes since the 80s sometime, maybe late 70s we've been building homes. And we've always been profitable, right? Because when you have free labor, you tend to be profitable. So essentially what happened is, you know, I was here sometime in the last 2 years to talk about that piece of property, and we talked about 9 lots, and we got the city to rezone the property to be residential. We drew up the plans, and those were approved by the city. So then this spring, we published a notice in the legal newspaper so that for 2 weeks to get bids. We actually had 3 companies that we had contacts with that we sent the bids to, hoping we'd get 3 bids. And what happened was we only got 1 bid from Budrovich. And in that bid, you know, obviously, as you've all heard, construction costs are high. And so what we did was we got the bid from Budrovich and then went back to them and asked them if we could somehow get this into 2 different phases so that, you know, we have the money for the part we're asking for approval for tonight, but then the rest of the money could come in 2 or 3, after the sale of 2 or 3 more homes, and the profits from those would then pay for the rest of the infrastructure, which would be essentially what we're asking now is to get the water, the sewer, the sanitary sewer, the excavation, the dirt moving around, the grass seed in, all that kind of stuff. And then what we're not asking for tonight is all of the sewer, some of the connections, just things that we can set up for 3 lots. And then also what we're not asking for is to build the actual cul-de-sac and the curbs and the street light that's required by the city and things like that. Hoping that in 2 or 3 years, maybe the prices would be more reasonable, or at least, we'll at least have, I just think it's smarter to do it in 2 phases, so we spread out the cost.
Sounds smart to me. Question? Any questions?
That's a lot of money, you know? I mean, the first phase.
It is indeed a lot of money.
Where's that money coming from?
Well, we're selling a house here for, well, I can't tell you what we're going to ask because it's not public yet, but we're asking more than what the last house sold for, which was $415,000. We think we'll get 75,000 more than what we're going to get from that house. I really think, I think it's going to be a nice subdivision. Really.
And this infrastructure bit, I mean, we obviously have to have it to continue the program if we're going to move forward with it. I agree with you, Marita, it's a pretty penny, that's why we wanted to bring it to you, and that's why Charles and Andrew and I sat down and kind of say, how can we do this in a couple phases and not ask for it all right now? And I know, not speaking for Charles because he's not here, but I know he feels comfortable with and confident with the fact that we can use the proceeds. It won't obviously pay for all of that first phase, but we feel like that would be a good chunk of it, and that we can get it taken care of, and then we'll move forward with the second phase once we need to do that.
Can you bring up that, well, the,
That's Alex.
sorry. Alex, can you bring up that first slide?
The utility phase.
The
Is that
one
what you're looking
shows
for?
the-
Yeah.
Yeah. That one. It's so interesting I love looking at this stuff. I don't understand a bit of it, but I love looking at this stuff. So how, you're only putting in partial sewers?
So, can I walk over here and point?
Sure.
So essentially, and I'm not an engineer, but apparently I'm going to pretend to be one right here. So the back of the current subdivision, right, back up there is where we're going to hook into the sanitary sewer. And as you know, you want a sanitary sewer to flow downhill, right? So that's what this is.
That's the red line.
That's the engineering part,
Yeah.
thanks.
And then also you have to have, so that's a long way to go. And it has to dig deep, you know, 'cause that's pretty low, so then it comes up.
So that part all goes in.
That's the most expensive part of this particular plan.
And so,
The water is closer, and I can't tell you exactly where the water is. So we're starting up here, though. Yeah, but so it's house up there.
yeah,
The point is that we're gonna basically put in these 4 lots will be buildable lots when we're done. And we're gonna be, and just so you know, there's no dirt leaving the site and no dirt coming in.
it's just getting,
It's gonna be just moved around. And, there's this is obviously gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be pretty,
What'd you say?
all this will be kind of moved around.
Oh, I know.
so I just met,
And this line here is the, no, I'm sorry, this dotted line here is the permanent tree. So that the trees there are gonna all remain there.
that'll make
All
it
woods
desirable.
here, and it'll be a park.
I think desirable lots and keeping the tree line, that's good. So my silly question was, so those first houses that you're putting in, they'll hook into that main, the main sewer line's going in, but
Yeah.
not all the,
main sewer line, the water, there'll be a few more, like the storm sewer, the things that we're not putting in is like the storm sewers that'll come down here. And then this part is, right now the street is kind of stubbed right here.
okay,
This first infrastructure bid is basically give us at least 3 years of
Okay.
build. We think, right?
We know.
and the first 3 lots.
And it looks like, Andrew, you're kind of pointing to that whole block of 5, but we know for sure those, we know for sure those 3.
Well, here's the thing, the fourth block could be built, but if there's no street,
Yeah,
then you can't access the
Right.
drive.
that's another that's the other engineering piece that you've added.
So could you explain, I'm trying to understand on the cost analysis. It says the original bid was for $413,745. I'm trying to figure out what are we approving? Okay, and then you say that includes certain things. Then you say the phase 1 bid is for $385,000. The entire cost, including street curbing, street light, et cetera, was $568,500. What are we approving?
So you're being asked to approve the $385,000 cost, okay? And the rest of that is the extra $154,000. We're gonna rebid that in 3 years.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So we're approving $385,000, and you figure the house that we have for sale will be over $400,000.
We'll sell for, we should, I'm hoping that in the school district offers will get, I mean, after expenses, real estate fees. Our realtor, by the way, is only doing this for a 0.5% commission.
No.
So that's really.
It's a great
Yeah, that's, yeah.
A great partnership.
Oh, it is.
Well, it is 0.5%.
Great job.
But the buyer's agent takes 3%.
Okay, yeah.
So I would guess that we would pocket over $400,000 after commissions, cash. And so that would go right into this 385. Should I walk back to the center?
Sure.
So to answer your question too, if you look at the second document in here, that's exactly what we're talking about. So that, and you can see it, so then it says, this scope of work is offered for the lump sum of $385. That's it right there. So that's the second document, so you can see it clearly.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we answer your question.
Thank you.
Because it's again, it's a
Yep.
good chunk of change, and we got to make sure, but it's something that, and I don't want to force you all, but if we don't do the infrastructure, we won't be able to do the house, so.
And
It's
we
a
need to,
necessary expense at this point.
Right.
so.
Can I make a
So-
motion?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move to approve the Lewis and Clark Newfoundland subdivision infrastructure bid as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. I have one correction on those bids, is that the name is actually Newfoundland. It's one word,
Oh.
okay? Because it's
Oh.
sticking with the Lewis and Clark theme.
Ah.
It's
The Newfoundland.
the Newfoundland.
I wondered how.
Puppy dog,
The
sure.
Newfoundland, yeah.
Big puppy dog.
Thank you
Newfoundland.
for the correction. We'll make sure we get that.
Well, I
That's
had to
hard for
correct
me
St.
to
Charles
say.
Engineering today on it. You got right
Newfoundland.
on
And we'll
it,
make,
so.
well, that was their fault then. And
It
then we have
was
to
their
make-
fault. And it was Budrovich's fault.
And we have to
So
make sure that then our sign is correct once we get a sign.
trust me on that, okay?
Dr. Stewart, thanks for your time.
Thank you
tonight.
very much,
So-
everybody.
Thank you.
And
I have one last question. Are you going to thank us for your teacher's contract this year?
Well, thank you for reminding me. It's been a while since I signed it. I signed it in February, and I will thank each and every one of you for that contract, and my wife and my family appreciate it. And I look forward to serving this following year, and pray I get another one the following year. So thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Thank
Take
you for
care.
staying with us. Item 7.03 is policy changes, but this is our first reading. Do you have any questions over it?
Yes, is this the transfers within the district? Yeah.
For elementary transfers.
I think it's all elementary.
I mean, it talks about all transfers, but I think the element was the only change.
K through 12, or K through 4, yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I just want to clarify here, really, according to this, the superintendent or designee at the discretion of the Board of Education may reassign a student. Is that something that's been for high schools as well?
I think, does it say that in the policy? That there's, I think it's K through 12. But the changes that we're talking about are specifically for K through 4. And the changes are, and we're already practicing this. This is something that we've had a conversation with you guys before. We're just officially getting it through the process of changing a policy. And I don't mean to take your thunder. And I'll defer to you real quick.
I think not only myself, but the committee that does this work, like how the board has set up the parameters. And now, after this meeting, we have even more parameters, we have a transfer. What we're trying to do is create some of that with this. Prior to us taking this approach, we had elementary schools all over the districts attending various elementary schools for a variety of reasons. One could be babysitter, one could be close to their grandma, et cetera, because of the way that the policy is. So what we want to do is tighten that up. So our committee decided that for elementary transfer, under special circumstances, they would have to send a written request to me, in which I'll evaluate that individually. Basically, taking the board approach and just putting it in HR's lap, because we facilitate residency. Take a look at, evaluate it, and based off that, make that determination if it's necessary. This is really important because it has an implication on class sizes, which has an implication on how many teachers we have in various buildings. I also contend, though, that if a student is good enough to go to Monroe, then that we should have the same quality of education as Lincoln, we should have the same quality of education in Null, et cetera, et cetera. So all this is putting a practice that we started this year officially in the World Policy forward.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it, okay.
It does not affect what we do with our staff members.
No, no.
Our staff members will still be able to continue to have their children in the district, only for,
Thank you.
And this is just first reading.
Yeah, so this, just information. Item 7.04, our learning loss physicians. Are you going to
Yeah,
speak
this
to
is
that?
an informative presentation that we would like to go through quickly. We've had conversations about what federal funds look like for primarily addressing the learning loss that has happened because of the pandemic. As you'll see in this presentation, there's been like 3 waves of basically money that we want to make sure. We've talked about general areas and different things, but tonight we want to make sure it's specifically in a presentation that you guys can see exactly how we're moving forward. And so Dr. Cromo is going to help me with the presentation. She's going to go through a few of the slides and talk a little bit about the CARES Act and what we've already done with that, and then it goes into ESSER 2, and then I'll talk about ESSER 3. So there's kind of 3 steps to it. So Dr. Cromo?
Alex, would you mind going to the 7th slide? Thank you. So as Dr. Seifert mentioned, there's about 3 phases. We're going to start with the CARES Act, which was the first phase of federal funding that we received that went into effect, I believe it was right on March 13th, 2020, right when all the schools were shut down. The CARES Act went into effect. And so our district allocation was $1.6 million. All of these funds have been expended, and we used it for a variety of things. One of the main areas was that we were able to use it to help pay our fourth quarter payroll for many of the individuals who were no longer really had a job to have. So we used a lot of the funding to help pay payroll. We purchased our PPE through that, cleaning supplies. We purchased tons of technology to get ourselves ready for virtual learning. We had pandemic-related costs for custodial maintenance, technology, food service, and then there was also a transportation component that we are using this summer to help fund transportation for summer school. So those funds went pretty quickly. And now, if you want to go to slide 3, Alex, we are now looking at ESSER 2. So this is the current funding that's available to our district. We have a little over $3 million. Our district budget was approved by DESE this past week, so we're excited about that. So we have approval to actually expend the funds, but we have not spent anything yet. So we have 2 years to use the $3 million, and we're really looking at the primary expenditure being around learning loss. By federal law, at least 20% needs to be pertaining to learning loss activities, and we have the bulk of this money around that. The one item that is earmarked for ESSER 2 that's not learning loss related is an air quality improvement. So I believe Charles talked about this last month a little bit. We're going to have a needlepoint bipolar ionization unit for each of our district buildings. It's coming in at just under $700,000, and it basically will scrub the air. Hospitals and other facilities like that have this type of system to keep the air quality clean, to keep people healthy. So that's going to be one piece of it. The rest will all pertain to learning loss activities. So from these funds, we're going to run summer school for this year and next year, and so that'll be around $700,000. Then the rest will be spent on programming and supplies to support learning loss activities, and also to add in some additional positions that I'm going to talk about in just a second, to help shore up learning loss at our schools throughout the district. If you want to go to the next slide, Alex. So when we talk about those additional positions, so we are adding 2 additional social workers because the learning loss is academic, but we also have a lot of mental health, trauma, and social emotional needs that need to be addressed as well. And so we are adding 2 additional social workers. At this point, because these are time-bound dollars, we're saying that these are 1-year only positions and they will be reposted, and we will continue to reevaluate as we move forward. But this would allow for, in theory, to have 1 social worker at each of our schools, Jefferson, Hardin, West, and High, and then to have a couple of shared social workers at the elementary level. Now, this, in theory, is how we could space it out, but Julie will work with our schools to make sure that they're actually allocated based upon the actual need of students' caseloads. So, but this will give us that opportunity. And we already have 1 at the early childhood level that's funded 100% through our early childhood special ed grant. So this will give us much more coverage for some social emotional support for our students and families. We also, through our alternative education committee and the updates that we've been bringing to you, we're looking at adding a full-time counselor / social worker at Success. So those postings are going up right now. We actually met with Dr. Jarris today at Success, and they're thrilled to be able to have that additional support starting next.
And a quick note on that position will continue after the funds, because as we are looking at 22-23, expanding and evolving our alternative education program at the Success campus, that is one piece that our committee has already looked at, that we have to have a full-time counselor there to move forward with some things that we're doing, just so you know.
And then we also are looking at our 2 administrative positions that are on teacher contracts, so they're 10-month contracts. We're looking at our administrative intern position at the elementary level and our dean of students that's split between Jefferson and West. We're looking at transitioning those to 12-month positions and giving them extra duties. So having them work with social emotional learning. Our transitions through our CSIP are an area that we really want to focus on, having them really help shepherd that process. Looking at our dropout and graduation rates, summer school will be a main focus, hence the 12-month contract, and then, of course, other duties and assigned. So those are the pieces that we are identifying at the district level for additional staffing. And Alex, if you want to go to the next slide.
And can I add to that too? So those two people who are moving forward into those 12 months, the reason why those positions can take on some of that extra is because we're going to get a couple more months out of them. Plus, they are in a position where we have one of them is already at the high school level and at the intermediate level, and the other one is at the elementary level and taught at the intermediate level. So they really understand those transitions already, and they also understand the dropout graduation rate our dean of students does, and so they're already primed to be able to help us with some of that work. So.
And then the other component was we wanted to really be able to share the funds on an equitable basis with all of our schools, because all of our schools, all of our students they've all been impacted from the pandemic. So we have allocated $120 per student per school to specifically address learning loss. So for this upcoming school year, allocating just under $600,000 directly out to the schools. And then you'll see on the next slide that we're saying, what can it be used for? Really, we're asking every school to identify their plan. And on the next slide in just a moment, I'll show you the parameters and timelines that we have. But if we're going to look at staffing, all of the positions are 1 year only, simply because this money is time bound, right? It's not continuing on necessarily. So we could hire learning loss interventionists that are part-time. So some of our schools already, if they're title schools, have some title funding, they hire interventionists to come in at certain parts of the day to work with small groups of students. It's very effective. So they could hire learning loss interventionists. They could hire learning loss teachers that would be full-time. Some, at the secondary level, some of them are looking at potentially having a teacher that could staff like a learning lab. So if you need help with writing your papers or math work, like we have a place and specific teachers that are able to do those types of things. They're also talking about maybe learning loss paraprofessionals that could be part-time or full-time. So these could work directly with our classroom teachers to work with small groups of students and instruction in core areas of math or communication arts or at some of the other tested areas like science or government at the high school level to really help support those students. We have talked about extra duty stipends for our teachers before or after school or on Saturdays or whenever it's most conducive for their students to run small group interventions outside the normal course of the school day or tutoring outside the normal course of the school day. We're talking about continuing credit recovery efforts at the high school level and embedding some of that at the high school instead of relying 100% on success to be able to do that. Looking at dropout prevention, graduation support, those are all like staffing types of positions that we're talking with our principals about. They certainly could use it for supplies or professional services as long as it's tied directly to those core academic areas of supporting student learning. Anything that would be test prep with helping them get ready for the AP exams or ACT exams, math and EOC, social emotional learning that we just talked about. Those are all things that could be used, this funds could be used for. Also professional development for our staff. And we've left it open to say, like, if they have other ideas, let's talk about it. Nothing is off the table. We just want to make sure that we have a very smart approach to how we're using these funds. And Alex, let's go to the next slide. What we've explained to all of our principals are that they all have to have a plan that will be approved by our central office admin team. And so they must include specific steps and justification on how those funds will address core tested areas and learning loss for our students. And so some of our schools already, like our Title I schools, they're very used to creating plans like this because we submit them to the state and we correlate everything that we're doing there. But so here we've asked them all to start thinking about their plan, developing their plan, and we've said that their initial plan is going to be due to us by July 12th. And then after we review them and give them authorization to start moving forward, they must spend those funds during this next school year. So the funds that we're allocating right now, they need to be expended by the end of 21-22. And then if they're hiring staff, they need to have those people on board no later than the start of second semester in January. Because we don't want them to keep this to the end and say, okay, well, now that it's March and it's right before testing season, we're gonna do some tests. That's not gonna get us the results that we want. So we wanna make sure that the supports are in for our students for the bulk of the school year. We also, as part of their plan, they're going to have to collect evidence of impact on student achievement because as we roll into the 22-23 school year, we need to make sure that the way we're spending the funds is having the intended impact that we're all desiring from the onset. And if not, then we'll reevaluate and we will look at 22-23. And then Nidra Woolfolk, who is our new federal programs coordinator, she is the one, because of this federal money, she will be the one shepherding that for our district and making sure that we are in compliance with all the state and federal regulations that are coming along with it.
To that note, a couple of things. One, we wanted the bulk of this money to go straight back to our schools. And we want our principals and our staff to have the ability, and what our thought was, yes, we use it for some positions, but we don't want to have positions at this point that are just adding positions that are at a coordinator level or director level. We want boots on the ground, hands in the classroom, working with our kids directly. And then to the accountability piece and the evidence of this, like already just this week, and I know credit recovery is a little bit different than the learning loss gap and what that looks like. But the credit recovery is a big piece, and just this week, in 3 or 4 days, this sounds crazy, but in 4 days, we already have kids.
So it was as of 3 days. 'Cause I don't
Oh,
have
I'm sorry,
today's
I'm sorry,
numbers.
go ahead.
So
I'm-
as
I'm-
of the
I'm-
end of the day yesterday, we already had 11 of our high school students recover at least one credit.
Already, in just 3 days of summer school. So that is a huge piece of that. And then the
Or I should
account-
say a half credit, one class.
Yeah,
They recovered
yeah.
one class, it would be a half credit.
And the accountability piece will be conversations that we have. So when we talk about evidence of impact in terms of formal and informal assessments on those essential skills that we, in our RTI process, that we want our kids to master, that's what we're talking about when it says, hey, what's that impact? Our kids have individual goals of where they are in terms of moving forward in those essential goals. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to evidence, moving forward.
And just as another little update about summer school too, so we do have kindergarten through 12th grade students, and right now we have 420 students that are actively coming to summer school for remediation. And so that's super exciting. We've been around this week hopping into all those classes, kids are learning, and it's good that we're able to offer this opportunity this year.
Can you tell me, how many dropouts did we have?
You know what, for this past year, I don't have that number at my fingertips right now. I haven't seen the report from last week yet.
These are people that have dropped out and not come back, right?
So this, I would say, we started looking at preliminary numbers that they were working with students this spring, and it was probably double to triple what it normally is. But here's the other thing is, at the end of last year with the pandemic, when dropouts typically happen, we didn't have any kids coming or going out of the district. Like, it was stagnant. Like, we put a pause on all transfers and dropouts and incoming students. So there is an element of that's a rollover from last year as well. But our high school counselors have been meeting together and trying to come up with out-of-the-box ideas to try to get kids back.
So a perfect example of that, so this is what we're talking about. So we met with all our administrators and they love this because they feel like they're empowered to work with our staff and put it right where it needs to be. And I was talking to one of our assistant principals at St. Charles High School. I think somebody in this room really knows him well. And we actually had a conversation just today, and there are, because it's due July 12th because we want to be ready. And that individual assistant principal was working on this morning on a systematic approach for them to really, and he's just kind of getting it proposed for Mr. Walker to look at it and the staff to go from there. But the idea was getting those kids that are either dropped out or have a recovery issue or have that learning loss, and if I heard this correctly, have a systematic process where staff members then would reach out to those kids individually and work with them outside of school hours, get paid for that obviously, and then be kind of attached to those kids to get them back. So those are the things we're talking about. And so our principals were just thrilled about this and are ready to take this to our staff and get it going, so.
And to tag on to that too, I know Dr. Jarris, leading into summer school, contacted every student on our list to see if they were eligible for Missouri Options to get them to come in this summer. Some of them said, nope, no, thank you, but some of them are there. So we're capturing some of them. And then also to the new social workers that we're putting in place, having those connections, having those resources, hunting them down at home, saying you need to come back to school. Like if you've met any of our social workers, they are those tenacious people who are like, I am going to come pull you out of your bed right now. And you're going to come to school with me, and that is just what's going to happen. And so freeing them up so that they can do more of that will be helpful.
And when you talk about our summer school program, we're talking about a program that's going almost, it's what, 6 weeks?
3 weeks in June, 3 weeks in
And
July.
so you're talking about 6 weeks of learning. We've had at least, I think at least 2 families that have tried to enroll in our district just to be able to go to summer school. So they're excited about what we're doing, so. Thank you, Danielle, you may take over the. So we had CARES Act that we've used, then it turned into ESSER, and again, just so you know, elementary and secondary school emergency aid, you're also there like American Recovery Act, just so you know those acronyms. So then that was ESSER 2 that we've got approved for, we're moving forward. Now I'm gonna talk about ESSER 3, so the next slide, that right there, thank you. So I wanna talk about ESSER 3. So as you see, the pot of money kind of starts going up. And so now we're talking about a really good chunk of change, almost $7 million. And so what we're doing with that, and again, it has the same parameters that ESSER 2 did in terms of it has to be at least 20% spent on learning loss. And so the 3 areas we've been talking to you guys about, learning loss, technology, as well as the air quality. We want to continue with that. However, ESSER 3 is not allocated yet, and we don't have a plan in there yet. And because it's federal dollars, there's requirements tied to ESSER 3. Okay? And so what our federal government's trying to do is get the school districts that have not been in school, they want them where? They want them back in school. Well, we've already kind of done that. So we're kind of ahead of the game. So 2 things I want to make sure, as you can see that first slide there, that tells you the learning loss activities, the air quality improvements, and technology upgrades access. I say possible uses on that because that's not official yet. ESSER 2, we are moving forward with that. The reason why I said it's not official yet is because we're going to get some feedback from our stakeholders on this because there's 2 requirements. You can go to the next slide, please. There's 2 requirements, and I'm going to kind of go through that in my own terms, but 2 requirements that ESSER 3 is tied to. The first one is our reentry plan. So by June 23rd, each school district has to have something on their website that says their intention to come back in person. The good news is we have a 10 to 16-page reentry plan that we all worked on and you all approved in the fall. So that works for us. However, we still have to have a piece that says that we are coming back and what we're doing. So that's that first, that bullet point number 1 where it says safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan. That talks about, and it won't be just that wording, I had it in here, but I'm going to have Chris Bennett help me with that bullet, and that's going to go on our website so people understand that our goal is obviously to resume and continue our in-person instruction. We obviously have a virtual learning process that has been developed this spring where kids had to apply to make sure it was appropriate from the state of virtual, and we're down to a very small amount of kids that are going to be in virtual learning next year. And so we already have that piece down. So we're going to have that on the website so people can see that. Now, the bulk of that reentry plan, you're talking, obviously mask wearing is going to be a big conversation. Protocols, right? Self-checks. Are we going to send kids home? What is the quarantine limit? All of that. We have some statements in there that simply say that we're going to work with our health partners. We're going to work with our local health department. We're going to obviously look at CDC guidelines. We're going to get our stakeholders involved. Obviously, our SCA is going to be a part of it. My thought is probably in July, we'll probably get our task force back together at least once to kind of go over some things. And like I did in our letter going home in last week of school, I basically said we're masked up for the summer because that's what CDC says right now, and we're going to see what next year looks like. And so that's not telling you exactly what the reentry plan looks like. It just tells you what our intent is and how we're moving forward. My goal is by August 12th, which is the last board meeting before we start school, is to have a reentry plan to you all that you can approve and move forward with. And then we'll have those conversations. And so we have to have that. That part has to be on our website, and we can still use our existing reentry plan that's on the website now. However, my intent is to take that existing plan and revise it, and hopefully get it down to even a little bit more precise of what we're doing next year with, and we're hoping we're back as normal as possible, but we have to see what it looks like with conditions. Okay. The second thing that's tied to that, to this money, to spending almost the $7 million money, is that federal government and our DESE says that we have to have some input from our stakeholders with this money. So, i.e., there could be a survey, we could do different things that will go out to have a conversation. So we want to make sure you had a possible idea of how the categories of the air quality, the learning loss, and the technology, we're moving forward in those areas, but we also need to get some feedback from our stakeholders. And so we will, this summer, in some fashion, get some feedback from our stakeholders, and then we will, from our general thoughts of how we're going to spend that money, we will then curtail what we've gotten from our stakeholders, then to make that plan, and then that plan will come to you all. And that's ESSER 3, so that has not even been allocated yet. Just I'm giving you there's some things tied to it that we're gonna see some things popping up here real quick. And I wanna be very careful with that reentry plan, because I just wanna keep it very general right now. Keep our existing one on there, because we're not ready to make comments or statements about masks and things right now. We will in due time, but we need to have that process go through.
And just to be clear, you said this too, that like it's not been appropriated yet by the legislature. So we think this is the amount that's coming to us, but we don't know for certain yet.
And the third piece is, that's tied to, again, it's the money kind of stakes go up, they kind of tie some things into, is our periodic revision. So we do this anyway, and it can be just simply my superintendent comments, my updates to you all about how things are going within our process in terms of the reentry plan. Again, we're kind of ahead of the game because we've been back in school. So,
Excuse me. You know, when I was going through this, I don't know, for lack of a better term, ESSER stuff?
ESSER, yeah.
Yeah, we're going through this ESSER stuff, you know, in a way I was bemoaning that we haven't followed our CSIP, you know, because of everything that's going on and so on like that. But essentially, this ESSER money is kind of really, we're throwing money at CSIP goals. I don't, yeah, you can tell me, Danielle, was that the plan?
I mean, that wasn't the plan, like creating a pandemic.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not federal
Well, no, not like that, no. But
We've been blaming the wrong people.
I will tell you this, we will have some updates, I'm sure Don and I will have a conversation. We periodically have some updates on where our CSIP is, and obviously, our 5-year strategic plan, obviously, the pandemic, we have been, it's been pretty crazy, right? But I think I know we'll probably be optimistic, pretty pleased with that we were able to still move forward with, there's some areas we haven't, but there are some areas of this SIP plan that we have continued to move forward. We just haven't had that update a little bit. So I think we'll be pleasantly surprised with where we're moving the SIP. And then the important thing is our vision of these two big rocks, student needs and RTI process, and how that connects directly with our SIP plan. That's why it's not easy, but when you come up with a plan, it all goes together, and we're going to it's not this money's here and for this, it goes straight into our SIP. So, and that credit to Danielle and our team for putting that together that way, so.
And I think the goals that were in our CSIP are still our goals of our CSIP.
Yep.
Just some of those areas that we highlighted then have been kind of put under a spotlight now because of the pandemic. So when we talk about transitions, well, some of this ESSER money could be used to have, you know, a freshman transition program or a boot camp into kindergarten or, you know, whatever at any of our transition times. Like we could use some of these funds to directly support some of our CSIP goals. Anything with student achievement, academics, support for kids, the dropout rates, all of those things. You know, we have the graduation rate committee that morphed into an alternative ed committee. So the funds here helping us really transition into create a true alternative school that supports kids who struggle. These funds can be used for them. And
Can-
so,
I think it's very appropriate.
Yeah, can I ask a question? I know, the county and each municipality, they got quite a bit of money themselves. I think St. Charles City got 13 million. Is the school going to ask them for any of that money?
You want to?
I mean, and maybe you can't since we got our own, but I didn't know if the school was going to ask the city.
Jason might have a better answer. I know that Charles and all the CFOs for the county created a letter and sent it, and I think the superintendent as well. right?
But to the county or to the city? To the county, oh.
To the county.
Yeah,
Well, I think we're working on the city, too.
yeah.
We're working on the city, but
Okay.
we have not, we don't have anything with the city. Now, the county, and I think I think I shared this with you all maybe a month or two ago, and this is very tentative. I mean, there hasn't been any other conversations since with that. But we met with the county on what would that look like collectively, and that was kind of, the focus was kind of channeled on what could we do to expand or enhance our CAPS program. And so nothing has come out of that yet, but that's a conversation we've had with the county. The city, we have not had a conversation with.
I was just curious, yeah.
At least I haven't.
And I haven't heard that Charles has said that.
But Charles, so the CFO group and our group has been pretty active of sending some letters and some conversations with people. But I have not had an official conversation with anybody in the city about those funds.
I have a question about the ESSER 2 needlepoint bipolar ionization. I know a lot about ionization, being a chemistry teacher. 685,000. What sampling of air quality do we currently do? And if it's found that the current, or the installed HVAC, because we bought HVAC with the bond issue money, right? So
Yes.
if the air quality is good, we wouldn't need
Yes.
needlepoint bipolar ionization units in every school. And one other thing, if you put clean air into a dirty room, it's not going to do any good. So maybe the mold problem at St. Charles High on the first floor A building, they would have to rectify that before, And the learning loss, is that only for subjects that are going to be tested?
So what we're doing with learning loss right now, to focus what we're doing, we're focusing on communication arts and math. And then we're also looking at science and then government at the high school. So we're focusing, and AP and ACT stuff classes can come into that too. So we're focusing that right now for 4 areas.
Are there any plans to focus on just,
Instruction in general or?
Right, yeah.
And so yes, I think
Yes,
when we get to
okay.
that third phase, like, it's surprising how quickly some of this money goes.
Right, yeah.
So when we get to that third phase, I think we can certainly reassess and look at that. I think if it's professional development around student engagement and teaching, research-based teaching practices, things that can impact all teachers, all students, I think that's absolutely fair game. Anything that we're doing with working with like ELL students, special ed students, students who are at risk, I think those impact all teachers, all classrooms. Those are absolutely things that we could consider for any of these times.
And any plans to increase the staffing to decrease class sizes?
And that's a good question. We haven't really had that conversation at this point because our class sizes, I think Rodney could probably even speak to our class sizes, especially at the lower levels right now, are in a pretty good shape.
Well, yeah, so what we did was at the elementary level, obviously with the secondary it's a little bit different because it's predicated on how many students sign up for certain classes. But at the elementary level, our range is K through 2, 17 to 20. And then 3 through 4, 20 to 23. That's extremely conservative. Most elementary schools that I've been a part of, your report is pretty much like, you get to the 25 to 26.
Yeah, but that's one selling point for the St. Charles School District is historically small classes. And my last year of teaching, I had 30 kids in a science class, in a lab class.
So we haven't looked at these learning loss positions strictly to reduce class sizes. We have not done that. It's obviously we're looking at content areas and providing extra time and support for kids that need support.
And the extra, when we talk about the extra time and support, we're not trying to take away from the classroom teacher or what's happening in the classroom, but push in and help in the classroom. And so some of that will be small group learning that will happen, so getting those numbers down a little bit. But we're not at this point using ESSER 2 to say, okay, we're gonna add a science because of the numbers here. And we have to be careful because a lot of these positions and a lot of this money, obviously just a year or two, we have to be very careful that are we able to sustain that after the 1 or 2 years of the funding is gone. But, and your points to the ionization, I'm certainly not gonna go there because you know that more than I do. But how often are air quality measurements taken? So I wanted, because you had a couple questions there.
Yeah.
I don't have that off the top. I don't have that specific information on how often. I can tell you that Josh Schaefer, our new maintenance director, and Charles, this is something big on Josh's plate, and I don't know for sure what he has tested or what he has found. I do know that this has come from what he has seen in his school district that he's come from, and then also that he feels like there is a need for that. Now, there could have been some testing, I don't know that, I can follow that up for you, but I know that, obviously there's some testing involved there before we just spend all this money of scrubbing the air.
Yeah.
But I know,
More
I
than
do,
$500,000.
I agree with that. So your points are, I don't know if I have specific answers for you right now, but I can tell you that Josh Schaefer and Charles, they're heavily involved with this, and I know that they have evidence or they have the thought of why and how we're moving forward with this and the reasoning for it, but we certainly can follow up with that.
Could I just clarify, we're talking about right now $3 million, but we're supposed to get $9 million, is that correct?
So next phase should be 7.
Next phase, 7 million, so that'd be total of 9.
Yeah, and
Call it
that has
10.
not been even,
Closer to 10.
that hasn't even been allocated yet.
Okay. Closer to 10.
Well, we're getting 3 and 7.
Oh, hey.
I'm pretty quick about it.
No, I know. I had a horrible math teacher.
Oh, there goes your second grade teacher. Okay, well, this item was for information, and now we're at 8.01, our district financial report, but I think we've been overworking the meeting already. I was talking with Jason before that we're going to go ahead and, is that okay?
Yeah, so we put a statement here, so this district financial report for June will be presented on the agenda for the special open closed board meeting that we've already scheduled for June 29th. And so we'll have that June report as well as the budget to be approved at that meeting.
Because-
Do you want to add anything to that? It's been a very busy,
She's been very busy.
very long, very busy.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Okay. Okay, we're ready for item 9.01. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?